Welcome to the Paddle and Fin podcast. This is your host, Ricketts. You're listening to the Mixed Bag. Tonight, I got two guests with me tonight. The one and only Josh Eldridge. Josh, how's it going, big boy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good, man. We have a lot to talk about. It's a big show. We want to introduce our special guest, Jay Gibson, a.k.a. I've been working on the railroad, a.k.a. Tall and Handsome, a.k.a. the Indiana Stick, a.k.a. It's Jordan Gibson, everybody. Welcome, Jordan.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure, buddy. We have, I guess the appropriate word would be like huge affection for you, man, because just to hear locally what you do, how you rep the shop, and how you just rep kayak fishing in general. It's awesome, bro. So it's actually our pleasure to have you on the podcast because you do so much around here. You're such a stand-up dude, man, and you ask for nothing in return. So I know you're a fan of the podcast. It was no brainer. Let's bring you on. Let's have you on here and talk about you, man, because you talk about us enough. So now we're returning the favor, brother. We're glad to have you on here.
Well, boys, I really appreciate you having me on too, and big fan of the podcast, and it's an honor to be on here with you guys.
Oh, thank you, man. So lots to talk about today. We wrapped up the first day of the Cincinnati Travel Sport and Boat Show. I think, one of the main attractions, Chad Hoover. We talked about that a little bit. When you see the dude online, you kind of have a perception of what you think he is like, right? Because you see him on you see him on sometimes on Facebook, you see him on YouTube, and you kind of get a general feel for how you think somebody is. And then you meet him in person, they're completely different. I, for one, was blown away. I thought he was like, in person, he's 1,000 times nicer and 1,000 times more like people oriented. And I was super pumped up. Well, what did you guys think about that?
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I was under the same impression. He came up to us and, obviously Chad's a busy dude. He's there to give those seminars, got to hang out in our booth. Since we carry Bonafide, that was sort of expected, not expected he had to hang out with us, but he paddles Bonafide. And so I had a lot of good conversation with him. It was a lot of small talk, but it was just like meeting any other kayak angler, And
yeah,
I think that's kind of important nowadays that people kind of keep that, they may get a little bit of fame. They may become real popular here or there, but, it wasn't something that I felt had gone to his head or anything like that. He was just like talking to anybody else. He was just like talking to Jordan. We talked about some Bonafide boats, what we like, things we dislike. And, I asked him about what it was like doing seminars like this. And, he said, he completely enjoys doing things like that. And it's cool because you could kind of see if you do so many of those things, it probably could get kind of annoying being the same, repeating the same things over and over and over again.
For sure.
And, he really seems to get enjoyment by interacting with people who have an interest in the sport, and it was cool seeing him up there, seeing him stand the whole time while he's answering questions in the boat. People are like, hey, is that boat, stable? And he's like, look, I'm in this thing, and
right.
There's nothing wrong with it. And I had, it was a pleasure meeting the guy, definitely not what I expected. And I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah. In a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not as tall as I thought he would be. Jordan, you're pretty tall. What are you, like 6'2", 6'3"?
Yes, like 6'3", yeah.
Right. So I'm 5'8". If I wear tall shoes, 5'9". Chad's probably sitting about 5'11", right? What'd you guys think? Maybe 6 foot?
Yeah, I'd say probably somewhere around there. But, it's like seeing those videos of Chad back in the day, before he lost all that weight. He was a big dude,
Big boy. Yeah.
But still, he's still a pretty big guy. And to see him standing up on that Bonafide, got me all interested back in the Bonafide again, because when I demoed it that day on the Miami was rough. So I really couldn't get an idea. But he's like, I'm just up here having a good time, talking and standing on this thing. I don't have the best sea legs either, so I was like, heck, I'm demo one of those things again and give it a shot.
Yeah, for sure. I told you, Jordan, that Bonafide was no joke. When we first brought Bonafide on, I took it on the Ohio River, flooded, It was 40 something feet. And it had a pretty nice current, and not once did I feel like I was going to fall out. Had the dry gear on, vest tightened up, no gear other than a paddle. And I said, okay, we're going to take this out here and we're going to see if this lives up to the hype. And I said, yeah, Bonafide's got something here, boys, you know? So for sure, man, great boat. So we'll get back to the show in a minute. We have, I know, a ton to talk about. I'm kind of all over the place because as soon as I left the show, I've been, you know, kids are like, oh, I'm hungry. I love you. I want ice cream. So I had to deal with all that. So Jordan, you and I and Josh, we definitely have a lot in common. I think we've all been hunting before. I think you still actively hunt. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, sir.
Cool. You know, I like busting some caps. I have, you know, pretty nice collection. I like to do that. I think you like to do this as well. Are you more into like the gun season when it comes to hunting, or are you into archery? Well, like what's your bag?
Buddy, I'm an archery nut.
Are you?
Huge bow hunter, bow shooting. I'm actually the assistant coach of the Union County High School archery team this year.
Nice.
Just super fun, man. It's a different challenge. You know, nothing against gun hunting, but it's like Chad Hoover was talking about today. You know, it's like, you know, you got in a bass boat, you can cover 20 miles of water. You know, go out in a kayak, you got to be strategic about how you hunt or how you fish. Same with bow hunting. You know, you go bow hunting, you need to know where those deer are, have your homework done. You know, and it's more of a challenge to me. And that's what I enjoy about it. And it's just I don't know, I feel more one with the outdoors when I'm bow hunting because it's more primitive. But, you know, you say primitive, but you got these bows nowadays that have got more technology than, you know, most things out there. But still,
yeah.
Nothing against picking up a boomstick and going to bust one, though. But I prefer bow hunting for sure.
I have next to no knowledge of bow hunting. I've shot bow. I was considering myself a decent shot, but I was probably terrible, right? I missed the first deer I ever shot with at a bow because I couldn't tell how far it was away. If it was 20 yards or 30 yards or 40 yards, I was like, oh, 20. No, it was not 20. Yeah. But Josh, what about you, man? Do you bow hunt?
I am not much of a hunter. I have the gear to do it. I have a bow, a nice tree stand, a bunch of camo, and this whole fishing thing's kind of taken over. So yeah, I mean, I've been out a few times, but I actually haven't even been out my tree stand. I have a brand new tree stand that's never even been used, like a climber, and I need to get back. I need to get into it. It's just this is kind of how I look at it, man. The fishing thing takes over so much from spring till fall that it's, you know, it's something that it's important is make sure I make family time, and to pick up another hobby like that for me.
Right.
I don't need to make the wife any angrier than she is sometimes. So
like with my wife, the one time she gets all bent about going hunting is when she can't go too. She's just as into the outdoors as I am, and fishing and kayaking and hunting. So it's a great time.
That is a great time. So coaching, tell me about that, man. Like what's involved with coaching archery, and also I think for some people who may be interested in archery, Jay Randall's a big archery guy too, and he does. I think like don't hang me here, Jay, but I think he does like 3D targets maybe, or something on the lines of that. And I could be way wrong about that, but I know he likes to shoot bows. I think that's one of his passions. So I'm brand new. So what bow setups, what arrows, what broadheads? Coach me. What would you do?
It's kind of like fishing, man. I mean, like, you know, you can start out as expensive as you want to or as cheap as you want to. And the most important thing is get out there. You know, look at what your budget is. You know, I mean, safety gear, just like anything else, you know, your harness, you know, a good tree stand, you know, a $200 shotgun from Walmart or a $3,000 rifle from, you know, Gander Outdoors or whatever. It's going to kill a deer dead, you know, if you're going gun hunting. Same with a bow. I mean, that $200 bow from Walmart is going to kill it deader than, you know, just as good as that $1,500 Bowtech bow. So it's mainly just go kind of like kayak fishing, just go shoot one, try them, see what you like. But, you know, I mean, just get out there and do it. With bow hunting, a lot of frustration comes into when you're new because, you know, it's like, oh, pick up a gun, get it sighted in. Yeah, we're done. Bow hunting, it's completely different because, you know, wind is a factor, you know, a big factor. You know, choosing the right arrow setup, which, I mean, until you know what your draw length is, what you're going after, same with broadheads, you got to dial all that stuff in. It's a lot more time consuming and very frustrating. I mean, if you have a bad day shooting your bow, you know, you could be all over the target, but nothing's changed except for, what you're doing that day. The next day, you don't touch nothing. You go out there and you shoot nothing but 10s all day long. Like with the archery team in the high school, this is my first year helping out with that. When I'm used to compound bow shooting and everything there is, fingers and, shooting your fingers, no sights, no nothing like that, which up until this year, I had never done any of that. So, I'm learning just as much from the main coach as all the kids are, and
Nice.
It's just pretty interesting, pretty neat. But it's definitely something that I think is awesome. I wish they'd have had that when I was in school for sure. But
yeah, very cool. We didn't have anything like that when I was in high school either. Back when I was in school, I graduated in 97. Go Panthers. We were still allowed to have rifles in the back of our pickup trucks and stuff, like hanging. Not anymore. Not anymore, folks. No, a whole new world. But I did when I got into bow hunting. It was, man, what was my first bow? I think it was like a diamond something. I can't remember. Years and years ago. It was an okay bow, and then I picked up my first Bowtech, and made in the USA. There's something awesome when you got that Bowtech in your hand and you see that little American flag right there. I was like, man, that's dope. Bowtech was nice.
American flag and God trust right on the limbs.
Yep. And that's to me, I think that's awesome. So I shot Muzzy broadheads or Muzzy hunting tips, man, and just bought my arrows from Walmart, bro. I mean, I didn't. I killed a lot. I killed a lot of deer with guns. Now I haven't hunted in probably, I've been married 8.5 years now, 8 years. So it's been well before that. So the last deer I took was with my favorite muzzleloader. Now I have shotguns. Right in Ohio, you can use pistol cartridge rifles only, right? So your lever actions. So the closest thing to a rifle that we could use was a muzzleloader. And I had bought off Craigslist, believe it or not, a muzzleloader. This again, back in the day, you can't buy guns off Craigslist now. It was a muzzleloader, a Thompson Center, and 50 cal. And I've killed more deer than that with that than anything. And it's so accurate. So I think I've taken 5 deer total with that muzzleloader, and nothing with a bow. So I was, and I'm a gun guy. I was more drawn to the firearm part of it, but it's definitely on my bucket list. Turkey hunting. I know some friends that have checked some turkeys off with a bow, and that's like next to damn near impossible, because if you even blink, they see you. I heard that. Have you turkey hunted with a bow?
That's my goal this year. I love turkey hunting, love spring turkey hunting. Don't fall turkey hunt, but spring turkey hunting is just, you talk about, deer hunting is fun because, you go out there, do your homework, but them turkey, talk back at you. You set up when they fly down on you in the mornings, you're in the right spot. They're super talkative, and you just, even if you don't get a shot at one that day, just going out there and seeing them's a ball. But getting one with a bow this year is definitely my goal, because I'll get a lot more chances to turkey hunt this year than I normally do. Normally go out with a gun just because you're like, okay, I get 3 times the turkey hunt this year. I'm going to increase my odds a little bit. But this year, I'm definitely planning on getting my first turkey with a bow this year for sure.
You guys, are you allowed to shoot traditional? I'm saying traditional rifle because, again, in Ohio, pistol caliber only. Do you guys shoot traditional rifle in Indiana?
Yeah, they just allowed that to happen. Don't quote me, 2 years ago, I believe. And be honest with you, it's kind of one of those deals, depending on where you're in the state. I'm against it thing, and I'm a gun guy. It's just. And that's weird for a gun guy to say no rifle hunting. Well, up in northern Indiana where I used to railroad at, it's flatter than I'll get out of there. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't think about where that bullet goes after they shoot that thing, or if they miss. But down here where I'm from, it's hilly as all get out, no big deal. I mean, it's going to hit a tree or hit a hillside before it goes anywhere else. But the rifle hunting in Indiana really picked up, though. As soon as they legalized that, everybody grabs a rifle now, and the 12-gauge shotgun slug is kind of a thing of the past here.
Yeah. What about you, Josh? You got any input?
Yeah, man. I don't own actually any guns, not for any reason. I just don't have any. I'm not against them by any means, but for bow hunting, for me, it was kind of along the same lines with Jordan. It's just more simple, not simple, because it really isn't. A gun is probably actually technically more simple when you think about it.
Right.
But just the whole aspect of hunting in that way, to me, I almost feel like a gun is unfair, sort of like, it's not, but like, there's an aspect of bow hunting for deer or turkey. It just makes it a little bit harder. It's kind of like the same thing with the kayaks. I agree with Jordan completely. Kayak fishing, it takes a lot of homework. So, but I mean, honestly, I can't really divulge a bunch of information like that because I'm just not that much into it so far. But the times I've gone out, what's that?
We'll have to change that this year. You ain't too far out.
I know. I meant to get out this year. It's just with the podcast and now we got our show season. It was hard, and the best time to hunt is right smack dab in the middle of the holidays. So this year I sort of ran out of vacation time for all of our fishing trips that we did. So once again, I missed out.
All right, Jordan, are you ever there's usually, let's say probably three types of hunters. There's the meat hunter, the trophy hunter, and then there's a hunter who wants both. Are you a guy who wants both? Or are you more like just fill the freezer type hunter? Or?
But I'm the guy that hunts both. I mean, to get the trail cameras out there, you get all jittery, like, oh boy, look at that right there. That one's going to be mine. Right. And then all of a sudden, a couple weeks later, you're like, oh, well, there's that deer I wanted on Facebook. Good thing the neighbor got it, But yeah, I mean, it's, fill in the freezer. I mean, I enjoy deer meat. I think hunting is good conservation. I mean, it has to be done. I mean, it's one of those things that I truly enjoy. But I mean, I take more from it than just a trophy. Right. I mean, if it comes down to it, I'll tag 3 does if I get a chance. I mean, it ain't no big deal to get a buck to me. But just you always want to get that big monster you see on your trail camera. You do all the food plots and all the hard work. That's what your goal is. Kind of like that 10-pound bass. That double-digit bass that you want. But yeah, I mean, I'm a fill the freezer. And if the trophy comes across and presents itself, buddy, it's gonna drop.
Yeah.
Unless I miss, then I guess walk away.
You said something funny about your whole neighbor. Yeah, you see the neighbor bag the buck that you've been watching. That didn't happen to me, but back when I was big into hunting, and I can't put a time frame. It was actually about 2006 to 2009 is when I was really heavy into it. We have property in Adams County. It's like a family plot that we get to go. It butts up to Shawnee State Forest. So we actually get the deer that come off Shawnee. So when I was hunting, though, wasn't on that property. It was local. Now, my grandfather was a really well-known dairy farmer in the area and owned a bunch of land. And the land butted up to the Little Miami Bike Trail, which butted up to the Little Miami River, right? So there's a road called River Road, obviously. It goes right next to the river. And I remember driving my car one day and I see this younger buck running this ridgeline. I was like, oh my God, I've never seen that one before. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And I'm kind of afraid of heights. So you won't really get me into a tree stand. I was in a tree stand once and the wind was blowing and the tree stand was blowing. I was like, I'm out of here. This is not my bag, right? I'm out. So I was hunting out of a blind. And it's one of those, it was one of those real cold mornings, you're in the blind. I'm like, oh, I just got warm. I'm sitting there like my eyes starting to get a little heavy because you've been in there since like 4 a.m., right? Yeah. Eyes getting a little heavy. And I look over to my right and I see some does 100 yards out. And I got my muzzle loader and I'm thinking, there's a really good chance because I'm not good at a lot of things, but I was a really good shot with that. I should have brought it out. I got it in the safe behind me. So I was thinking I could bust one of those and it's a safe shot. I know there's no houses back there. And I lined it up. So the blind was behind a fallen tree. And I was able to kind of rest my muzzleloader outside of the front of the blind on this fallen tree. Right. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm lining up on this doe and I'm thinking I'm going to get her. And out of the left corner of my eye, I saw a flick of a tail. And I'm thinking, holy crap, there is one walking up this hill into this meadow where I'm at. And so I slowly, like as in unison, I turned my gun with my body and I look and I saw antlers coming up this hill. And I was like, oh, my heart, it starts going. Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. I was trying to do a cool little like heartbeat thing there and I screwed that up. But anyways, I start and I see these antlers come up and it's that freaking deer that I saw earlier. And he's coming up. And so I had practiced and I had practiced and I had practiced. And the first buck I've ever bagged came within 20 yards of me. He was probably 15. I busted him wide open with that muzzleloader. It was high velocity, short range. That bullet went clean through him. He jumped, spun, and ran. So he ran and he fell down the hillside where, like the back of the hillside going towards the river and the bike trail, right? Bike trail first, river there. So that was obviously like his point of escape. I think they had made a pretty good trail to run back that way because they tend to run where they're familiar with. And so that was the first buck. And I called my brother and my cousin. It started getting dark. I'm like, hey, I need you guys to come help me get this thing out. And it was, it was a 6-pointer. It wasn't huge, but it was beautiful. I have pictures somewhere I could post it up. And they didn't believe me. They're like, dude, you didn't get it. I didn't quit. I'm like, dude, I got this buck. You guys need to come. I've never gutted a deer either, right? Back then, I didn't have YouTube on my phone. I think I had maybe a flip phone, a Motorola Razr flip phone, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know how to gut a deer. Nobody showed me how to gut a deer. I'm thinking, all right, man, I've read about it. See this, you just pull out your knife and you start cutting here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys are listening to this in your vehicle, may want to turn it down if you listen around it. When you grab a deer's junk and you cut it off for the first time, it changes you. It changes you. When you are cutting its butthole out and you're grabbing and you get that slime on your hand. I was dry heaving so hard I almost fell over a few times. I'm full blown. I'm like leaning. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then so I got it done, and they come, they help me drag it out and we throw it on the truck. We butcher it. That whole experience was life-changing for me, because I went from doing the homework, man, learning about hunting, learning about how to read rubs and trails. And, I didn't have a trail cam, but it all came like together. The whole package came together. And I thought that was so awesome. I could still, ladies and gentlemen, I still can't gut a deer very well. And it's been a long time since I've done it. And the last time I hunted, I'll tell you about that story later, was terrible. And that was the last time I hunted because it was the gut. Ugh, yeah, it grossed me out. So that's kind of why I fell off. Now, a lot of people, according to the ODNR, people are not hunting as much as they used to. Right. No. And so now it's a problem now.
Yeah, I was at a hunting fishing seminar that they had at a local outdoor shop with Hank Parker last weekend. And as one of his topics, he brought up, hunting license sales last year was down 2 million nationwide, wow. Which is, like, oh, nationwide. That's a big deal. That's 2 million hunters that didn't get in the woods, but on the flip side, he's like, fishing licenses were up 15% higher than they've ever been. Yeah. So people are still getting in the outdoors, but 2 million hunting license not purchased, that's a big deal across the country. It really is.
Well, the secondary repercussions of that, what people don't understand is that money for your license and your permits and your deer tags, buck and doe tags, stuff like that, it goes towards wildlife conservation and keeping our parks up and keeping our waters clean. And that stuff is vital because without that money, they don't get a lot of government funding. Right. So but a lot of people do lean towards fishing. I don't know why they're stopping hunting. I really don't know why. What do you think, Josh?
Man, to be honest, I'd have to say it's just sort of the society that's kind of come around. The more and more the social media and, the more video game type stuff that's going on, I just don't think our youth is getting into it like they used to, I didn't grow up with a father in my life to have like the outdoors type stuff passed down to me. Right. That stuff was kind of gained from my adventures in college and friends that I had that got into backpacking and, and it became the more outdoor stuff we did, the better, so I think that attributes to it. But I think maybe it's kind of weird. To get into hunting, I think is a little bit more pricey than it is for fishing, and that has to do with, in my opinion, the apparel. The best, hunting season is the best part of hunting season is the coldest. And, there's gear out there that it's pretty pricey, there's the cheap. Yeah. But any of it really is, even the stuff that's cheaper, you're still looking to drop some coin on something that is actually going to keep you warm. I've bought I bought cheap stuff at first and realized, this stuff doesn't work like advertised. And, I had to purchase some stuff that was a little bit more pricey. And so I could kind of see that aspect of why some people might shy away from it, especially if you didn't grow up in it. You might have an interest in it, but you might get a little bit of sticker shock when you realize how much it does cost. I mean, there's cheap bow setups, but it's still really not that cheap. You could go buy a rod and reel for $50, but you're not going to really buy a bow for $50,
Yeah.
Or even or a shotgun or anything like that. So I think that might kind of attribute to it, but I honestly think it's just not getting passed down to the generations like it used to.
My son has never hunted yet. I mean, he just turned 7. I haven't taken it, but he wants to hunt. He's fired up about it, He goes, well, we see doves, and I used to love dove hunting. It's something I want to actually get back because dove tastes phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But I told him, I said, hey, you see that bird right there? What's that, buddy?
Filet mignon of the sky.
Oh, my God, they're good. You take those and a little slice of apple and wrap it in bacon. Oh, my God, they're good. I told him, he calls them meat birds. Hey, Dad, let's go shoot one of those meat birds. Let's go squirrel hunting. He wants to hunt. So we're going to get a hunting. I'm going to pick it back up. And I won't be a diehard hunter like I am a kayaker because obviously I can't fit both of those in my life right now. But I want him to be outdoor exposed. I mean, he likes fishing for 15 or 20 minutes, and then after that, I'm going to throw every rock in the river, right? So.
Right.
Or like the last trip, he's a water nut, and he likes to get in the kayak, jump off the kayak, get in the kayak, jump off the kayak. And then sometimes you can't get him back in the kayak because he just wants to float down the river in his life vest, So I think we did a 5-mile trip, and I kid you not, he probably floated 4 out of the 5 miles. So him and his little buddy, I mean, that's just what they like. But I heard squirrel tastes good, so I want to bag a squirrel. Rabbit, I don't care about rabbit too much, but definitely dove hunting. And I live up in a subdivision that has private land behind me, and there's some monster deer back there, and they sleep right behind my gate. And I saw this, I posted a picture not too long ago of this one bedding down, staring at me while I'm taking this picture, and he had tree trunks on top. And I'm thinking, there's 2 ways to look at that. There's the, oh my God, I could just go and bag this deer and say I'm the best hunter ever. Then there's sportsman's like, that's kind of cheating. So the sportsman side, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. That deer is off limits to me. And it's kind of the same principle as bagging what they call a yard squirrel. Like, you don't shoot the squirrels in your yard because those are they're yard squirrels. You don't shoot that. You know what I mean? So what's the biggest deer you bag, man? Like biggest buck is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, nothing crazy yet. I mean, I got a decent 8-point a couple years ago. With railroading up until now, that pretty much did. I mean, that if I had any free time at all, it was either go fishing or go hunting, and it was also the last 3 years we've lived in Fort Wayne. So to get down to any hunting or any good fishing, it's a 2-hour drive back to my wife's family's farm, or, and then 3 hours back to where I'm from, so, I mean, we didn't get too much time, but, decent 8-point buck a couple years ago is my biggest deer. I didn't grow up, deer hunting at all. My dad didn't hunt. Hardly anyone in my family really hunted much. Pretty much one of those things, I've always been interested in it, and a family friend of ours took me out one time, dude, and I was hooked. And it was one of those things like, I self-taught myself as much as I could, read as much as you can. And same with fishing. I mean, Dad took me fishing quite a bit growing up. It's never like, big fishing trips or, get out on the boat or nothing, just go fish off the bank in a couple ponds or whatever. But just getting outdoors and doing all that stuff. But yeah, man, I mean, there's in the area around here, I mean, there's some very nice deer around here. And the farm that me and my wife just bought borders a giant hunting lodge refuge, and it's all, free range deer and everything else. And then I'm going to put in some food plots on the property and everything else and try to, help the deer in my area, and try to get me a big old nice one for the wall. But definitely my goal this year too is to get out west and do a little public land mule deer hunting and try to get something big out west. But
that sounds like a lot of fun. While you were talking, I was trying to dig through my Facebook. I know I had posted some pictures of the last deer I shot. The time frame I feel like was around 2010. we were at what we call deer camp. So the day after Thanksgiving, my cousins, my uncles, my brother go to deer camp, and they go there for like 5 days. So we were hunting, and it was really crappy weather. It was on a Monday morning, and I was hunting in mountains. I was hunting that hillside over there in Adams County. Again, that's kind of like my thing, man. I like to find fallen trees, and then I kind of like to get back behind them, right? And I was hunting a dry creek bed, so it started snowing like crazy, and I was freezing, just kind of miserable. So I laid down kind of behind this tree, and I probably nodded off for a good hour and a half. And it stopped snowing, and I sat back up, and I'm looking around, and I see again like a flicker or flutter 50, 70 yards out. And I'm like, it's a freaking squirrel. It's the only thing I'm going to see today is a squirrel, and it was down by that creek bed. So it started coming out further and further, and I'm looking through the scope of my muzzleloader, and I'm like, oh, that's a deer. That's not a squirrel, because it was back behind a tree, and I just seen an ear. It was its ear is what I was thinking. It was a squirrel tail. And so I'm like, oh, that's a big doe. That's a big doe. So I'm looking, and what it kept doing, and I believe, I'm almost positive I have pictures of this on Facebook. Actually, I know I do. So it was turning around, and it was like grooming its side like this, right? It's down like this. And it was blocking the shot. It was blocking its heart shot. And I said, listen, I'm going to have like one shot at this. If it doesn't move, I'm going to shoot it through the face and drop it with a 50 cal. And I did that, right? So I shot it. The bullet goes through the snout, out the other snout, and hits it pretty much right where the heart is. But it blew a hole in this deer's rib cage that you could easily fit probably 2 golf balls in. Maybe about 1 golf ball. And it was a golf ball size hole. And that thing took off running. And we tracked it, and it blew blood probably 20 yards on each side, because it had holes on each side of its snout now, right? And the bullet penetration was right behind the snout. It looked like a massacre. And when we got up on it, that freaking 50 cal entered its rib cage, right? High rib cage, and bounced around inside that deer. Brrr, just ricocheted. I did at that time. Did you guys hear that? That was perfect. Dude, it shredded that deer's stomach. And when it died, blood and just like grass and whatever it was eating was just bubbling out of that. And that gut, I could not get that smell off my hands. And I probably got sick maybe 3 or 4 times. That's the last time I hunted. Like, it was so awful. I couldn't do it again. I could not bring myself to do it again after that. It ruined me. But I do have a picture on that Facebook. I'll try to find it here in a moment. But it was god awful. It was god awful.
I don't know if you can see it, but that was I don't know if you can see that worth the crap or not. Probably not.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that was the 2017 big buck. But I mean, it was kind of the same scenario there, buddy. I mean, it came out, and it gave me like, one chance to get it. And it was, thread the needle kind of bow shot. And I'm like, well, it's either going to go really well and I'm going to be the king, or it's going to go real bad and I'm never going to find that arrow and the deer's going to run away. So
oh, no.
I split 2 trees about 42 yards out, and I came right down through the top of the shoulder, down through and caught a lung, and he went about 42, 45 yards, give or take. And of course, he rolled all the way to the bottom of this hill. And, it's always fun dragging a buck out when it's 10 degrees outside and it's dark and muddy and wet and everything else. But always good.
No. I'm trying to find, I think we lost Eldridge. I think I have to add him back in. But yeah, dude, it was freaking awful. Just the smell. I couldn't get past the smell, man. And I know, like, when you're a hunter, it's something you just kind of have to go through. Like when you hit one wrong, when you gut shot one and stuff like that. But I never expected that, because I never gut shot at him. Right. It's just that when I shot it through the snout, it obviously just made that the ball, man, just kind of open up and just bounce around inside the rib cage, and it was awful. So and my brother was making fun of me. He's, dude, you gotta quit gagging. I'm like, Rich, this freaking smell, dude. And I couldn't get it out of my skin. That was the thing too. Like,
and it stays in your nostrils for days too. Like, even when you don't smell it, you think you do.
Right. It was terrible. So that was the last time I bow hunted. And flipping through here, I'll text you the picture. I can't find it right now. So kind of segue off you said earlier when tell us about the railroad, because you mentioned bringing that up. There he is. He's back. Hey, handsome man.
Sorry about that. Apparently my internet was like, nope, not tonight.
We're good on you. So we were just finishing up the story about how that bullet ricocheted throughout that deer, and I was gagging. I couldn't get the smell off my hands, and it was terrible, man. So Jordan mentioned railroad work. So you're the second person I know that has worked on the railroad. The other guy hit it big, right? His name's Mike Champlice, and he works down here at the Cincinnati Railroad. He's also the founder of Spur Brand, right? Yep. Do you know Mike?
Yeah, I worked at CSX out of Louisville, and Mike was he was the guy over training me whenever I first hired out at CSX down there in Louisville, Kentucky. So I know Mike pretty decent. He probably don't remember me because he has tons of people that he interacts with on a day-to-day basis. But Mike's a real nice guy.
Real nice guy. I met him last year at the Tri-State Outdoor and Fishing Show. We worked that one last year, and that was when it was at the Lawrenceburg Convention Center. Our booths were kind of next to each other. I bought a hat and a shirt, and then we kind of fell out of contact. We talked about outfitting me in some of his clothing and repping it for the fishing stuff. Great guy. Him and Buddy, his partner, are great. They hand did their logos and they hit it. Now it's on turkey calls, and they've hit the big time. They're big time. So I'm really happy those guys made it. So what's it like, and what do you do for the railroad, man? Because I think that's just really interesting, and you never hear that from a lot of people that they do that type of work.
Yeah. Now, what I've done before, when I first started railroading, I was an engineer and conductor. Running the train, orchestrating the movement of the train, all that stuff. Did that for a while. I got laid off whenever the economy hit that second tank back in like 2016 timeframe. And the railroad really had a lot of issues, and they laid several people off. And then I transferred over into the maintenance side of the house, working on the track. More job security there. It's like, well, even if they don't run 2 trains a day, at least they got to work on the track. So, maybe my job security is a little better off. And that's what I moved up to Fort Wayne for, was a track inspector up there, which, we drive the truck with the rail gears on it and go up and down the track looking for problems and making sure everything's safe to run on. And then now I work for a smaller railroad. We actually run on an old Norfolk Southern Railroad that runs from Newtown all the way to Portsmouth, Ohio, down along Highway 32. And I'm a roadway director and rail administrator for them. So now I run their maintenance department and, take care of that stuff. And then I assist the owners with whatever they need business admin wise, and, whatever the railroad really needs to be successful.
Nice. What kind of, do you see crazy stuff, man? Do you like do overnight trips, or, you're going through some backwoods country stuff, right?
Yeah. I used to do overnight trips whenever I was an engineer and conductor. When I was a conductor for CSX, I spent a lot of time on the road. I'd go to Louisville to Nashville, stay over in a hotel, then catch a train from Nashville back the next day, same Cincinnati, Evansville. Nowadays though, it's pretty all decent schedule. Railroad owns you kind of thing. So, we enjoy it. It's kind of one of those, you do it for a while, it gets in your blood, and, can't see myself doing anything else. But you do see some stuff. Because the thing about it is you'll see a different side of the country from railroad tracks you'll never see from a road. Them, like especially that railroad we're in down there now. There's, when I was up in North Fort Wayne, they talk, we got curves up here. Like, no, dude, you have a slight deviation to the left and the right. You don't have curves. Like, you can't look back and see the track behind you because you're on the same curve and all the way through the mountain kind of thing. But yeah, just beautiful country down through where the railroad's at now, down in the foothills of the Appalachians. And you talk about deer, you see some monster deer on the railroad tracks, especially out in Adams County where you're talking about. But yeah, I love it, man. It's interesting, as a kid, you're all, trains, that's cool, and you never think about really being a job. And I kind of lucked into it, really. I farmed for a long time, and I went to work for a grain company, and I had heavy equipment background through the military. And they're like, hey, would you ever thought about working for the railroad? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'll give that a shot. And dude, that was all she wrote from there, man. Been railroading ever since.
That's pretty awesome. Do you ever find like homeless people sleeping in your carts and stuff?
That up under bridges, in cars. I've caught guys deer hunting off the top of cars that are parked in side tracks and all kinds.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No.
Really?
This past year, I had a guy, I was I was running down the tracks over there outside Batavia, and the guy's sitting on a 5-gallon bucket in the middle of the tracks with a vest on and a muzzle loader. And I come up behind him in the truck, and he stood up, started walking, and said, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?" "Oh, just out walking, man." I said, "Oh, with a muzzle loader and an orange vest on?" "Well, yeah, this is where the deer are." But I said, "Well, buddy, I appreciate it, but this is live track, so just kind of, I didn't see you, but the train will kill you." So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's fun. But you see you talk about homeless people. You see a lot of people up under overpasses, up and getting open the box cars up and sleeping inside there. But the funniest moment I ever had railroading this, you're gonna crack up. But I was working night shift down in Jeffersonville, Indiana, and I was riding a cut of cars back, and it was dark in the yard, couldn't see nothing. Well, I kept getting hit in the head with corn kernels. I'm like, man, kept looking up, and I couldn't see nothing. I'm looking up, because it's dark. Well, we get down in the yard there, and I'm getting ready to get off her. I look up, and there's this raccoon coming down this car ladder at me.
No.
And he had been riding the top of the car the entire time I was riding that shove, and he was pushing corn kernels off down on my head.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
That's awesome. My roommate, when I was about 20, 21 years old, worked for CSX and somebody else too. But he was actually ended up being with like a contracted company. He had a rail truck as well, and he did a lot of maintenance work on this electrical boxes for the signals.
Yep.
And he was telling me, share this with Ricketts here. Tell them how they lay that electrical wire down across the tracks. Don't you guys use like magnesium or something crazy? And it's like, it's kind of like setting off fireworks almost.
Oh yeah, thermite.
Yeah, thermite. Okay.
Yeah. Because we do a lot of when welded track, we use thermite to weld it, and dude, it's like it's like fireworks, and when it goes bad, it goes real bad.
Really?
Yeah. So
explain that whole process, man. Like, so what do you mean weld tracks? Explain that whole thing to me.
Well, so they don't do typical welding like with a gun, when you're welding two tracks together. Now when you work on certain track components, I mean, it's normal welding, it's nothing, nothing, it doesn't look any different. But when you're welding rails together, you got to get the alignment right. Then you put this mount on it, and then this big pot sits on top of it. And you got this mold, and this pot has powdered thermite in it. And so you get everything lined up right, set this pot on there, and it looks like a sparkler, and you drop it down on top of it. And all of a sudden it goes from 0 to like 5,000 degrees, and and then it melts that thermite, and then it pours down in there, like lava down in there, and hardens it up. Now, if that mold is done wrong, it'll crack, and then that thermite goes everywhere like a volcano eruption.
Oh,
and
no.
You talk about going wrong, it goes way wrong. Fortunately, I've only seen it a couple times, and the reason why, it's a good thing you don't see that is because it usually costs a lot of money whenever it goes bad, because basically anything that gets on, like if the last one we had, the mold cracked and blew out. Well, when that thermite got on the actual rail that we were welding, it melted through the rail head. So we had to cut 80 feet of rail out to fix it up. I mean, and that's big money. So, but yeah, it's pretty neat. And then, it's a neat process for sure. It's pretty cool. Y'all check it out on YouTube sometime. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, my roommate was telling me even like some of the stories of how they lay the wire down. I don't know if it was an old method or something, but how they binded the wiring to the track for it trips off the signals and stuff. And he was telling me about the thermite, how they fix that stuff. And I'm like, dude, that's wild, man.
Yeah.
I was like, I've seen video. I never saw it in person with him, but I remember seeing that online somewhere, and I'm like, dude, that is absolutely amazing, because that mold is exactly the shape of your track, and when it gets done, it looks like it never happened, like there was no break ever.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, you can always whenever you're riding on the track, especially because I inspect track too as part of one of my duties for this railroad now, so you can ride across it, and a good welder, you don't even know that weld's there. A bad weld, yep, that's a weld right there for sure. But yeah, you're talking about the signal stuff. It's the same deal, just on a smaller scale. And they'll, like on jointed track, they'll take the little wire and they'll fasten it on the field side of the rail to one side to the other, so it completes a signal circuit. But it's thermite welding, same deal, just on a smaller scale, and it's pretty cool. It's really neat.
That is cool. That is really cool, man. I love learning about new stuff like that. That's crazy. How many animals have you hit with your train?
Well, whenever I used to run, deer were pretty common, unfortunately.
Really?
The worst one ever, we were actually coming into Cincinnati around Covington, and we were coming through a tunnel there, and a pretty skinny tunnel. Well, this turkey vulture flew down in front of us, and we were going way faster than he was, and he had nowhere to go. I mean, it's just tunnel's tight, and he smacked off that windshield, and they stink. Oh, I mean, they smell bad. So
really,
I got to get out there and get this thing off there. Well, it stinks. You don't want to touch it, So you're like, well, I can't leave it on there, So, and of course, I'm the conductor, and I mean, was the ranking member on the crew, but it's kind of funny how that works is because the conductor is the ranking member on the crew, but usually they're the youngest guy on the crew. The engineer's like, man, I've been doing this 30 years. I ain't touching that bird. You go get him, So,
oh no.
So I crawl my butt out there, and, I'm taking my, what's called a brake stick. He's what you tie your brakes with. I'm trying to shove him off the nose with this thing. And I flip him down in the tracks, and he's in there cracking up at me, because I mean they smell so bad, and it did it splattered right on the window, and we had like a 6-hour day left, so we had to smell that all the way back to Louisville. Good stuff.
Dude, they've got to stink. I mean, they eat all that roadkill and nasty, just rotten. Oh God, I could not imagine.
Ugh.
I sent that picture to you guys via text, that deer. So you have to check it out. Now, if you zoom in, and you remember how I said, man, that's a big doe. It actually turned out being a spike buck, but because it was so far away, I didn't see the spikes on it. So I burned up my buck tag. So look, now it's more of like a baseball size hole and not a golf ball if you guys zoom in. But if you look at the snout, you'll see the bullet hole in the snout.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah. It went through that snout out the other side and made that big old hole in the side of that deer. So, and then if you zoom in even further, you can see the food I was talking about on its fur. Gross, dude. Nasty stuff. That was the last one. I don't have any homeless stories but one. So I work, man, I wish I did something cool like you for a living, right? I'm in boring banking, dude. I'm senior loan consultant for a bank.
Dude, what I'll tell you though is I guarantee you probably don't hurt like I do every morning when you wake up though.
Yeah,
right.
I don't, man. My wrists hurt from typing so much.
I've been since
my fingertips get numb.
It's like I told her, Jordan, you're only 29, you're maybe 30. I said, babe, I know, but I railroad. I'm 29 going on 65. Okay, like.
Yeah, sometimes I get cold and I have to put a jacket on in my office or something.
Oh yeah, it's so rough, man.
It's like the AC's too high tonight.
Yeah, and I can't get my seat to recline the way I wanted to. It's a tough job. It's real tough. No, I love what I do, man. I have a knack for it. I love what I do, but it's sales. It's sales based, commission based. Sometimes things get slow, so I have moonlighted as an Uber driver before. So last year stuff was. It's getting a little slow, and I was kind of pumped up about doing the Uber thing, man. I was like, cool, man. You're kind of like self-employed. You get to do your own thing. I had a nice ride. And so I started kicking off Uber, man. I only did it, I think, for a total of 30 days over a span of maybe a couple months. So brand new at it. I get a call in Covington. Now I work in Covington. And Covington's your perfect, like I told Josh today, I introduced him to Covington. It's your perfect mix of working professionals, kind of like a little bit of the bar scene, and then homeless people, and they're all interact because there's a homeless shelter pretty close to us, and they all interact with each other. So I got a ping in Covington, and it was at the pickup was a church location. I'm like, cool, a church, what could go wrong here, right? I picked the dude up, and he gets in. Well, he was really nice. He was a bigger guy. And gets in, he goes, yeah, I'm going to this homeless shelter. And I'm like, oh man, who, how, what, and it was a homeless dude. I'm like, okay. He's a big boy, Jordan, he's about your size. And I was a little uneasy, and that's part of me was just being judgmental because he was homeless. I'll be the first one to admit that. It's the first thing that made me kind of nervous about him being in the car. Right. He didn't smell he didn't smell awful, but he didn't smell the greatest. Right. It was just like, hey, I may need a shower. It's been a few days. So we start riding, and we're just making small talk. I'm trying to not show my nervousness. And I used to, well, when I did Uber, I roll strapped. I'll be the first one. I wasn't going to ever let somebody weird in my car without being strapped. This time I was not. strapped, right? So we're driving, we start to get stuck in traffic, and we have conversations, hey, what do you like to do? He's like, I like to make music, and this is what I'm into, and I'm hoping that, now that I get off these drugs, I think he said meth or heroin, it was one of them that he was real bad on. He goes, but every time I write music, he goes, and I, oh my God, this is the weirdest story. He goes, the voices in my head tell me to stop, and sometimes I can't control them. And I about died right then and there. We're in traffic. I don't know this dude. He's a big dude, and I'm no punk bitch, right? I can hold my own. He was a lot bigger than me. And I'm thinking, this is it, man. This is how I'm going to go down. This is the end of me. They're going to find me. It puts the lotion on its skin, right? That's going to be me. He's going to wear my skin as freaking lotion, right, bro? So I'm thinking, this is it. He telling me, and he said that he was abducted by the government, and the government put an implant, and that he hears voices, but he really likes to make music. And I dropped him off at his location at the homeless shelter, and he shook my hand and he goes, sir, I really appreciate the ride. And we went on. And that was the most craziest, horrific, scary story I've ever had Ubering. And I still did it after that. I told my wife about it. She goes, I don't think you should do it anymore. I'm like, it's a cool gig. I still want to do it every now and then. So I did it maybe a Friday and a Saturday night, and that was it, But I mean, he completely sketched me and freaked me out. But he was the most respectful psychopath I've ever met in my entire life.
They usually are. Then
he was so freaking nice, dude. But I mean, he was just
gotcha.
It was the weirdest conversation, man.
That's how he lured you in, buddy. That's how he lured you in.
Yeah, I'm telling you, dude. Boy, you got pretty mouth.
And I told Josh today too, like I get real weird about, I'm kind of a germaphobe. I don't like touch public door handles, and if I see somebody like in the bathroom and they don't wash their hands, I'll be, God dang, if I'm going to shake your hand after that, bro,
Look out for that guy walking around.
Oh my God, yeah, it's disgusting. So I like bathe in hand sanitizer. You say I'm rubbing my hands like this because it grossed me out talking about it, but I bathe in hand sanitizer after that. But super nice dude, man. Just totally whack, dude. So that's the only like cool, really work story, because my work's pretty daggone boring. I can tell you how I put staples in my stapler or some crap like that, but I mean, that's it. I don't have nothing cool or hitting buzzards or whatever the hell that was, the turkey vulture. So when you catch homeless guys sleeping in your car, or in your car, is it called a car or a cart? Because I've said both.
Car. Yeah,
car. A car. Okay. When you catch them sleeping in the car, how do you get them out? And what if they refuse to get out? What do you do?
Oh, I mean, it's my run-ins with them, generally speaking, they're like you said, pretty respectful. I mean, I have sympathy for them, dude. I get it, man. I do. I wish I could help you out more, but man, you can't be in here, dude, kind of thing. Just try to be respectful of them. Very rarely do you get someone that's like just totally causes an issue, but generally speaking, it's like, man, I understand your situation, but you just can't do it right here, man. The next guy that comes across fine, you may not be not as nice as me, kind of thing. But I had this one guy last year when I was up in Columbia City Railroad, and the gas station was next to the railroad tracks. So of course you're going to ride the truck up there, go in there, get you a pop, and come back. Well, I pulled up to the stop, and there's a bridge out in front of me, and there's this guy, he wasn't a homeless guy, but he's out there, hanging out, and he was throwing rocks off the bridge, and I'm just like, okay, well, so he sees me. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go in there and get this pop and come back out, and he'll be gone, no big deal, leave the guy alone. Well, I come back out and still throwing rocks off the bridge. I'm like, all right, well, now I got to go talk to the guy. So I roll up in my truck, thinking he's going to get out of the way, and he doesn't. He just stands right there in the middle of the tracks, keeps throwing rocks. I'm like,
oh, no.
Okay, this is one of those guys. So finally, I get up close to him. I kind of honk, kind of motion him out of the way. And he starts giving me 10 kinds, man, just throwing a fit. I was like, buddy, look, I understand throwing rocks in the water is fun, but you can't do it on railroad tracks. It's federal property, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, I pay taxes. This is what I want to do. I'm like, all right. I'd love to wish I could, but you can't. He's like, well, these are my rocks. I said, no, buddy. I said, they belong to the railroad, but I appreciate you wouldn't throw my rocks on there. He's like, what are you going to do, charge me for every one of them? I said, buddy, I can't buy one at a time. So, if you want to buy some, they're about $850 a truckload, and
Wow.
he is like, well, fine, and I'll just leave. So, but he walked off all mad. But I mean, you see him up under overpasses quite a bit. But most people in the cars, man, you just kind of like, they're still human. They're trying to do what they can do, and you just appreciate it, but you just can't be here. And they kind of walk away. No big deal. But the worst ones were when you find that at night. When you would when I used to recrew trains in Nashville, it wasn't in the best location of Nashville, so you're walking out there in the dark, checking your train, and all of a sudden, like, this guy's like, "Hey, man, you got any water?" You don't even know, where's this guy at, And he pops out from a car like, "Dude, you can't be up in there." Well, all right, I was just hoping to catch the train wherever it was going to go,
Wow. That's crazy. So no, they never got hostile? They never did anything like that? Like nothing to ever make you feel threatened?
Nothing in my career, man. I mean, I'm pretty fortunate. I mean, a lot of guys, you hear a lot of them old head stories, some this, that, and the other, refusing to get off, stuff like that. And I mean, usually if you ever have that kind of issue, railroads have their own police departments. The big railroads do. And they stay, pretty up and up on things. You got a problem, they'll be there. They understand that you got nothing. I mean, all railroads, you can't carry firearms, can't have knives, big knives, whatever. I mean, not saying people don't, but, it's not too bad though. I mean, I've never had any run-ins, knock on wood, yet. So
interesting. You got any input, Josh, or are you just fascinated with all this homeless talk?
I mean, I have my fair share of homeless under the underpasses, especially with fishing under bridges. So there's this one spot that I have, and I think the same couple's been underneath there for the past 2 years. It's insane.
Oh, wow.
It makes you feel kind of horrible though, man. You just think somebody's having to go through such a hard time like that, and that's, their last resort. And I've come from kind of a rough background myself, so I know that handouts don't work, kind of thing. So a lot of times people have to hit a certain rock bottom until they go seek help. And it's unfortunate because some rock bottoms end in death, but, not to make this sad, it's just, you kind of run into that stuff. But I have all sorts of good work stories because I work in the steel industry, and we have just mishaps on a consistent basis. Like I work with steel coils, and steel coils be weighing anywhere from 30,000 to 60,000 pounds on average. We've done safety demonstrations of dropping these things on cars, and they just flatten cars.
Really?
Oh yeah. And so we've seen quite a few videos of coils getting dropped. Speaking of trains, we have a rail car system that we have to pull around into the building to get unloaded. So a lot of times another train will dump those cars off on our property, and somebody didn't shock the wheels, and one of them came flying through the bay doors and right back out the other side. Yeah. It's funny because it's right next to where I work, which is called a pickle line. And when you crash a steel coil,
pickle line?
Yeah. So what we do is we take coils from the steel mills, and we run them through acid baths, and then it goes through a rinse section, dryer section, then gets something called temper passing, and which is basically like a rolling mill. It's got huge steel rollers in it, and it presses down and improves the shape of the steel, because a lot of times steel comes, it's real wavy, and auto manufacturers need flat steel to blank parts out of.
Yeah.
And then it gets oiled and wound back up. But the pickle line comes from, that's what they call the acid. It's called pickle liquor, basically. It's kind of weird. And so that's where that kind of name comes from. But we will crush coils, and it sounds like a car accident's happening. And so when that train blasted through, everybody on the line freaked out, thinking that they had this huge giant crash happen, and nobody could figure out where it is. And it's actually a train cruising through the bay by itself, busting out the other side.
That's bad.
Yeah, we had a flood a couple years ago. The creek, Monroe, because I work in Monroe got like this record-setting rainfall that happened in a matter of like 15 minutes, and the water drainage couldn't keep up, so the creek behind us flooded, and it flooded an entire section of our warehouse and shut us down for like 2 days. And So yeah, we have birds that like to land on the strip and they get shot through the mill. So we shoot bird guts all over the line and
Oh
we
my
have to go
God, dude,
clean
that's
it up.
crazy.
Yeah. We
Anybody
have,
ever lose like a hand or a leg or anything?
unfortunately, yeah. I mean, it's a steel industry,
You're
man.
shitting me. I'm
No,
being sarcastic. And that really happened?
it's happened. Yeah. Dude, steel industry is a very, very dangerous industry, man. AK, when we were growing up, I don't know if you remember this, Rickett,
Yeah.
but do you remember how many deaths used to occur at AK back in the day when we were younger?
It was always like a high number, but you never knew if it was just BS or if it really happened.
It happens.
Wow.
That's why you see the safety programs are in play now, just because the amount of money that gets paid out in medical and, funeral expenses and whatnot. It's pretty crazy. It's a crazy business, man. There's a lot of danger involved. And, so it's an interesting job. It gets monotonous for sure. I'm like Jordan. I'll get done with work and I'm about to put a walker in my truck because I can barely make it up the driveway sometimes. So,
Oh, wow.
it's not as bad right now because I've been trained to become an operator. So it's not nearly as bad. It's a lot more button pushing, but my previous jobs were, not super strenuous, but when we don't have breaks. We work just 8 hours and we take a half-hour lunch. So for a good 7.5 hours in my day, I'm on my feet running around. So,
Wow.
and I'm 40.
Yeah.
I'm 40, so it's starting to kind of catch up now.
Well, I just turned 42, bro. I'm right there with you, man. I was trying to manhandle you were on the phone with me. I was trying to manhandle that freaking Jackson Coosa flex drive, dude. And I couldn't do it, man. I mean, I was struggling just trying to manhandle that. And then after I was done with it, I was lifting up a box to put in the back of my truck and tweaked my back. I'm like, I got to get back at the gym, bro. It's bad.
Jordan, I'm talking to him on the phone, dude, and I can hear him grunting and like squirming like so bad. I'm like, dude, how about I let you go, bro? You call me when you get done with that.
Yeah.
It's like the wife does that to me all the time. She's like, Jordan, is that noise really necessary? Well, no, babe, but it makes me feel better,
Yeah.
Like you just got out of bed.
You just picked up a sock. Why are you grunting?
That's
like,
funny.
really, that Sprite weighs that much. You have to, make noises when you pick it up and drink it. Are you serious?
I got an old football knee too, man, from back in the day from playing football, and I blew it out big time, and I still to the day have issues with it. It's back in my Bundy days, bro.
Ricketts is like, it's gonna rain at 1:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, my knee's hurting.
Yeah, dude, it was hurting today at the show. I'm like, man, it's killing me. So kind of segueing your fishing, you bought a Jackson big rig from Loveland Canoe and Kayak there in Loveland, Ohio. So is that how you got hooked up with Loveland, was from passing through there on the railroad?
Actually, what it was is I was in the market for my new kayak, and I was looking through Marketplace, because you can find some deals on Marketplace, and I'm a sucker for a deal.
Me too. Yep.
I was looking through there, and I saw the Loveland Canoe and Kayak post that Hicks had put up, and so I commented on it and everything else, and he's like, dude, come down there, I'll tell Nate you're coming, come down there, and we'll put you on a boat, you can try it out. So I went down there and, met Nate, super nice guy, super good people. And we had a bona fide out in the water, and I was trying it. I mean, unfortunately for me that day, the river was getting it. So I really couldn't get a good feel for that boat.
Yeah.
But I ended up actually not buying my kayak from them. Unfortunately, a buddy of mine told me that he said, how far is, I can't remember where it was at in Michigan. He's like, is this place from you? I said, dude, I don't know, 3 hours. He said, dude, they have a big rig up there.
Nice.
On sale for $950. I'm
nice.
Like, really? He said, yeah, call them and see if it's still there. So I called him and said, hey, is this right? Is this a typo? Whatever. Said, oh no, we're getting rid of the brand here and looking to get rid of it. I said, so that's the right price? And they're like, yeah. I said, well, put my name on it. I'm driving 3 hours to come get it. So I drove over and got that, and then I came back and I bought all my PFD, my paddle, and all my accessories from Loveland.
Okay. Yeah, my bad. I thought you bought the boat too, but I mean.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it was one of those deals. Couldn't pass up the deal.
No.
But I was gonna end up in a bona fide more than likely if I hadn't found that deal for sure. But.
Yeah, I handle all the marketing stuff there on the Loveland side, and then I brought Brad and Josh to help me, and I'm a sucker for a deal too, man. And even as a consumer, before I even started doing that and repping Jackson officially, I'll always be a consumer. I'm always going to be the one looking for a deal. And what you did was absolutely perfect. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Of course, Loveland would have liked to have that sale, but most importantly, we would want you to have the boat that you could find to get you on the water at the price point that you can get on the water. So we support that 100%. I think that's amazing. So tell us about J. Gibson Fishing, man. So you started like a fishing Facebook page. I see you American Tackle. Who's your sponsors and what do you do?
I mean, I started the whole Facebook page there kind of when I started my Instagram deal. I was just posting stuff through my personal Facebook page for a while. And it kind of got to where I was like, man, I want to do like a page meant for what I'm doing, with the fishing stuff. But, TRC Covers, they take care of me, and Trophy Technologies. This year, too, I'm kind of excited. I'm on Team Kistler, the rod company this year.
Nice.
For 2020. So really looking forward to that. I just wanted to kind of, share my fishing, with everybody. There's not everybody can get out on the water and go fishing, but they can get some enjoyment out of seeing others fish. Same growing in sport too. I love kayak fishing. It's you got into kayak fishing the same most everybody. I don't have $100,000 to go dump on a high end legend bass boat.
Right.
Going to launch that thing by yourself ain't fun either. You can load a kayak up and in the truck and just go. You can go put in just about anywhere. And it's just, it's the same with bow hunting. It's more fun. Like Chad Hoover said today, you catch a dink in a kayak, it's still awesome.
It is.
You catch a dink in a bass boat, you're like, throw back. But yeah, man, it's a good deal. And the Instagram page is, as I learn, because I self-taught myself pretty much everything when it comes to fishing. And as I learn, I want others to learn with me. And and as I grow as an angler and a person, hopefully I can inspire others and, maybe teach them something, that they didn't know.
Nice. That's very cool, man. I think that I bought my first kayak was a big rig also, the OG big rig in Dorado. I did buy mine from Loveland. I was just researching who sold Jackson kayaks and they came up, and I got a stellar deal from Mark. I think I got the big rig. I got a Bending Branches paddle, a carbon fiber one, 260 centimeters long. And I got a cooler, an Orion cooler. I got those three things for like $2,200, which is a freaking steal. If you think about it, that's a steal. And I bought that with tax return money. So it's pretty awesome stuff, man. I've been contemplating on making a separate Facebook page for fishing, just so I don't have to spam my personal Facebook page so much. But I'll just keep it going. You know what I mean? It's Facebook.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those deals too. Is like it was easy to. I mean, when I made the Instagram page just a couple months ago, I mean, it's still in its infancy stages as well. I was like, well, I'll just throw a Facebook page together. That way I can, post from one, post to the other. Some people don't have Instagram. Some people have Facebook, just a different way to, interact with people. And it's going real well. I'm super blessed with all the, followers and people who, like the page, and it's just, it's really fun to do. I love sharing my fishing adventures and even outdoor adventures. I'll post hiking and, when it gets that type of season and hunting stuff, I'll post it on the fishing page too. It's not just fishing. Yeah. It's kind of what I call it, but
no doubt. That's pretty awesome. You just mentioned hiking, man. We all ought to get to go hit Red River Gorge this year, go hike and camp like a weekend or something. Hiking Hills too, man, because Hiking Hills, Ohio, is absolutely beautiful, and I haven't been up there yet. So I'm not sure if there's any fishing, but we can pack some gear and pack a rod and go up there and hit that. I think that would be a blast, man.
Yeah, dude. Me and the wife are big outdoors people and hiking. Like our honeymoon wasn't the typical honeymoon that going to the beach. We went to Iceland and went, hiking and, driving around the country and stayed out in a cabin in the middle of nowhere and rained every day and was still awesome,
Yeah. What did you think about the fishing show today? Did you like it?
Well, yeah, I loved it. I hadn't been to a, sport boat and vacation type show in years since I was a little kid, and it was kind of cool. We're walking through there, checking out the boats, but I mean, going over and hanging out with you guys at the Loveland booth was a blast. Meeting Mr. Hoover was great. Like we talked about earlier, super humble guy. The wife was laughing at me earlier. She's like, Jordan, when you talk, I have to pry you away from people. When you talk. And you were scared to death to go talk to Mr. Hoover. And I said, babe, you don't understand how big that guy is. You know?
Yeah. He's like, the man.
I said, it's like talking to the president of kayak fishing, you know. And, you know, as soon as like I kind of, you know, made a little small talk about the bona fide boat. And after that, dude, it was like, you know, just talking to a normal guy, you know, super nice guy, you know, and very, very blessed to have met him and, you know, met you guys and everything else. And it was just a great time, you know. I'd say great community to get involved in too. And, you know, it was nice to see everybody there and see that many people there too. You know, it was good stuff.
So the first time you and I met, you bought the J crate off of me.
Yeah.
And I tell the story because it kind of caught me off guard because we actually got hooked up on the Jackson Kayak Owners Group, and you were asking, and there was a post about selling a J crate. Somebody selling one. You were asking if anybody else had one. I had two. We met up at the City Barbecue there in Eastgate, and then you said, "Hey man, you know I'm a fan of the pod," and that it didn't hit me right off the bat. I'm like, pod. I'm like, oh, podcast, like Paddle and Fin podcast, you know, and the whole thing just it kind of, and I didn't have any stickers, man. You were able to get some stickers today, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
He got some at the Turkey Bowl.
Yeah, I got a couple.
Did? Okay.
Because that day we had the Turkey Bowl, it was raining that morning, so I stuck them on the boat. They didn't stick worth a darn. Going out and like massaging them back down, like, man, they just won't stick. So when Hicks posted that thing the other day, he's like, hey, you know, send me your, like, dude, I need some more. Mine got waterlogged. They don't stick no more. So stuck a couple new ones on the boat and one on the J crate. So
today we're at the show, man. And I get myself in some goofy situations. Like one show I worked, I was talking to somebody and I'm chewing gum while I'm talking to him. And I'm like, yeah, this boat, and my gum flew out of my mouth and hit the dude in the shirt pocket, right? And bounced off. And the guy had a great sense of humor. He's like, hey, you didn't have to spit on me, huh? And I'm like, I'm embarrassed. I'm like, Jason, you're a freaking dumbass. You know, you're a dumbass. I just use my first name. Not everybody knows me on this show. I think that's the first time I've dropped my first name on this show since I've even been on it. It's usually just Ricketts. So today, two things happen.
This is great.
I'm talking, there's two gentlemen and what I'm presuming to be one of the gentlemen's spouses with me, right? And we're over on the Jackson side of the booth. And he goes, hey, man, what accessories come with this boat? And so I'm like, I name off this. And she goes, well, you need to tell me because I'm like the accountant. She's being funny, you know, because it's like this thing, like every woman has to approve what her man buys, right? So I'm having it. She's the guy's in front of me, like you guys are, right? He's standing right here in front of me, and she's here to my left. And so I'm chewing gum again. Stop chewing gum, Ricketts, right? Okay. Stop chewing freaking gum when you're at a show, you idiot. So I turn around and I'm talking to her, and a piece of spit leaves my mouth and lands on her mouth.
Oh man!
And I'm like, fuck, you know. So it just goes shoosh, and it hurts her on her fucking mouth, right? And I'm looking at her husband, and he and I are still having a conversation. And then out of the corner of my eye, dude, I see her go. And she wipes it off, and she just has this pissed off freaking look, dude. I'm like, no, this is not happening. I was dying, dude. I was absolutely dying. So I'm like, I just want to stop talking to these people. I just spit on this dude's wife, man, like on her mouth. And so earlier, I love Chad Hoover's the greatest guy, but he'll talk your face off, which is awesome. But I was like, man, I got to take a leak. Chad won't stop talking. So he finally started to stop talking. I was like, bathroom. So I'm going, I'm like, oh yeah, man, finally a break. I'm peeing. I feel something just kind of flapping. I look down, and the shirts that we had on are really big, right? And I'm actually peeing on my freaking shirt, bro. Like so that happened before I spit on the grill. So I'm sitting there, I'm looking down, I'm like, I'm whizzing on the bottom of my shirt, man. This is not happening. Pee all over my hands, pee on my shirt, dude. I'm like, And so I some dude left the bathroom stall and I ran in the stall and I'm like, took off my jacket or took off my shirt and I'm like, crap, man, what do I do now? So I just carried it out and wadded up, threw it in a bag. And then an hour later, I spit on some chick's mouth. Right. So it was an eventful day for sure, man. It was a fun day. I'm happy to have seen you out there. Obviously,
so he had told me the gum story like literally a half an hour prior to him spitting on this lady's face. And he comes over, he's like, Eldridge, dude, it happened again. And I'm like, you spit gum on somebody? He was like, well, no, not exactly, but I spit right into her mouth. And Brad's looking at us like, what? Like what? He's completely confused. Man. Yeah. And I'm like, no way. And he's like trying not to laugh. Like, he's trying to tell the story and he can't breathe. And he's like, and I turn and it just leaves my mouth like in a perfect arch and lands right on her lip.
It's super slow-mo.
Yeah. And I'm like, so did her husband see? He goes, no. And we kind of didn't miss a beat. And I'm still talking and I'm kind of looking at her and him and I'm trying to figure out who's realized what's happened. And by then I'm like, I've got to walk away, dude. I'm going to pee my pants laughing, man.
No, Jake from Jackson Kayak, my team, my territory sales manager, right? He was there and he saw the whole thing go down. So when they had left, he was like, dude, when you were talking to her, she wiped her face off. He goes, did you spit on her? I said, I spit right on her lip, bro. Like it landed right on her lip, man. And he goes, I've had that happen so many times. He goes, what do you do, man? There's like nothing you could do. I was thinking about like, should I wipe it off? Like, what would she do if I made her start wiping her lip?
That would have put the exclamation point on it, and you just kind of reach out like,
this guy would sock me in my face, Oh man, it was great. I get myself in some of the stupidest situations, man, but it was today was a lot of fun. We're back at it tomorrow again. If you guys are in the Cincinnati area, we'll be at the Cincinnati Travel Sports and Boat Show tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Chad Hoover will be there doing shows at 1 and 3.
Make sure you watch out for that. What's going down tomorrow?
Right. I'm not going to piss on myself. I may spit on you, though. There's a possibility. Face shield. Dude, gum. The demo pool made it throughout today. Could you believe that? So, oh my God, you guys, the demo pool was leaking like all hell at this show. And we were kind of making side bets on when it was going to blow out. So it made it through today. Hopefully they'll patch it tonight, but it was leaking bad, like real bad. So anyways, I guess that about wraps it up. Do you guys have anything else?
No, can't think of anything about you, Josh.
I'm good, man. I do appreciate you coming on and talking to us, though.
Oh, absolutely, guys. I'm super, super blessed to be on here and talking with you guys, and really appreciate the opportunity to hang out with you for a while.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was our pleasure. Like I said, you rep us so much, man, and you're just an awesome advocate of the sport, and I like the way you carry yourself, man. You got a good head on your shoulders. You got some morals. You're not a jackass. I mean, you're my kind of guy. So
you're not spitting in people's faces.
You don't spit on people's wives. So other than that, man, tight lines, smooth paddling. No, scratch that. We got to come up with something else. Brian said that he's tired of everybody taking his lines.
All right.
What do we say?
Dude, this is your show, bro.
You know what? I think we're supposed to run a contest. We're going to post that on Facebook. We'll make a post when this episode airs. So this will air not this Sunday, but 2 weeks from this Sunday. When we drop this and you guys are listening to this, we'll make the post. You guys drop a comment below of what my outro should be. Something cool. Yeah. And then we'll send you guys something in the mail. But other than that, you guys take care. It's been a pleasure. See ya.
Go check out the website, guys, paddle, the letter N and fin.com. Also check out YouTube, youtube.com/paddle-and-fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest, feel free to email us at paddle, the letter N and fin @gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're doing giveaways, announcements, things like that at Facebook and Instagram at paddle and fin. Shout out to our show supporters, Rocktown Adventures, Loveland Canoe and Kayak, Hammered Lures, Fish Mob Lures, TRC Covers, Ketch Products. Go to ketchproducts.com. You could put the Paddle and Fin logo right on your catch board. Don't forget to go over and pick up your JigMasters Jigs. Use promo code PNF20 and save 20% today. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to. It helps grow the audience, helps others find our podcast. So please drop a 5-star rating in on the podcast platform you're listening on. Don't forget about the recycled plastics program, you guys. Take your used plastic baits, put them in an envelope, mail them to the address in the show notes. Our man Eric Richards at Hammered Lures melts those down, makes new baits, and donates them to various chapters of Heroes on the Water.